The Detroit Lions get their first victory of the year. They are at 500. They are 1-1. We are feeling good. All right. So, hey, as you might notice, my partner in crime, Chris, is not here. He was at the game. So I can't wait to talk to him when he gets back and kind of have a couple videos, just talk about what it felt like in the stadium. But for right now, you get me and you get some serious excitement about the Detroit Lions victory. But also, can I just say, man, it was a sweet victory because we were having injured players. Our entire interior offensive line, our number one corner, which by the way, Oruwariye, not number one anymore. That's Okuda. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But we're down players and we find a way to win. Swift comes in, he's banged up, so he's just not playing nearly as much, not as many snaps, but when he was there, he was doing well. But let's just say we've always had a pretty positive vibe and a pretty positive atmosphere on this channel. And that's something we pride ourselves in, we love. But oh my goodness, on our preview videos with the Commanders, we were getting some shade, y'all. It was salty out here and it was getting dark. There was so much shade, and people were, I think, just frustrated. They were saying like Wentz is better than you're giving him credit for. The Commanders are a good team. They have weapons galore, and it's just like, hold on. This is the first time in like 24 games, I think I read that stat, that the Lions were favored in the game by Vegas. Like, it's not like what we were saying was that nuts, but there's all this negative that's coming in. Everybody's starting to be down on the lines the closer and closer we get to game time. Washington had beat Jacksonville last week. A not great Jacksonville team, even though they got a sweet victory today against the Colts. And then we are coming off a hard victory against the Eagles, but for some reason the narrative just became bad. And I have to admit, even before the game, I was starting to feel a little bit down about the game, and I was starting to wonder, okay, what is this going to look like because of the injuries on the interior of the offensive line? And I'm telling you right now, it's like we didn't even have injuries. The offensive line was fantastic. They did such a good job of keeping Goff upright. There were a few sacks, don't get me wrong, and those did come from the interior of the offensive line for the most part. Stenberg had a complete whiff on a block that led into a sack. But at the same time, like, the defense played well. The defensive line got enough pressure in the first half to force turnovers, to force bad plays, to get sacks. Aiden Hutchinson with 3 of them. How awesome is that? We're going to talk a little bit more about him as well. But the defense played well enough that even though our secondary was a little bit beat up without Aruwariye, we were able to still play well defensively. So let's jump into the box score of this game, and let's just kind of look at what the Lions did and what we held Washington to and what we can learn from this box score. So the first thing that pops out to me when you look at this, Jared Goff, 0 interceptions. 0 interceptions, no fumbles. There was a pick that should have been a pick that he threw into triple coverage. St. Juste should have had that interception out of the slot, but 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, not an extremely high completion rate, but he had pretty good protection, only 3 sacks, and he was able to hold on to the ball for a long time for complex routes to develop. That was huge. Next, I look over at Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz's numbers are, I mean, like almost all second half. Almost all second half. And while Carson Wentz played good football, he did kind of what Chris and I both said he was going to do. He was going to do some really good things and some really bad things. He had 1 interception. He could have had 3. On here that's not shown was the strip sack that ended in a safety for us. Like, he made the mistakes, and that was one of the things people were hitting on the channel really, really hard. Like, Carson Wentz is great, Goff is terrible. Look, both guys went 1-2, I think, in the same year. Wentz has had great years. Goff has had great years, and both quarterbacks, I thought, acquitted themselves pretty well. Goff just made less mistakes. Let's go to the rushing attack. This is the big one for me. This is how we won this game. Washington likes to play where they run in between the tackles. That run game sets up their pass game. They're a little old school in that. They had nothing going on the ground. Gibson, who gashed the Jacksonville Jaguar defense last week, had 14 carries for 28 yards. By my math, that's 2 yards a carry. That is not good. He did have one touchdown, no big deal. But other than that, your runs came from your only positive runs were Samuel and McLaurin, like big chunk runs. And those came from weird plays, not straight up running. When they handed the ball off normal, they got nothing. That is huge. And that is something that we said we were looking for. We said that was something that we were looking for in this game, was to see what do we look like against a traditional offense, a traditional drop back quarterback. And what it looked like was we could stop the run game. And even though Wentz hurt us with his legs a couple of times, for the most part, we were able to contain him and things like that. So let's keep it going. Let's keep looking at this, because this is just fantastic to me to see. Here's where they did get us, was through the air. As you see, 337 yards for them, for Washington. But here's the thing I want to talk about. While McLaurin had a good day, while Samuel had a good day, while Dotson had a good day, none of them had a massive day. And a lot of it came with shell coverage and with contested catches. Dotson made 2 or 3 catches that were unbelievable. McLaurin made a great diving catch. All these, Samuel, even his touchdown, I mean, he got popped. He got leveled, and he held on to that ball. So they had to make great plays in order to have all this success. Our defense wasn't that bad. And then when you look on our side, St. Brown was just fantastic. What a great week for me to start him in fantasy football, right? And so, like, you look at St. Brown and you just, Mr. Reliable, tying not only Lions records, but NFL records, 8 games in a row with 8+ catches, random stats, gotta love him. But he went for 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's very clear who Jared Goff loves throwing the ball to. Now, I want to look on defense a little bit, and I'm gonna move away from the box score for a second. Here's the thing about the defense. I don't want to just be all, yeah. The defense was great in the first half. Why? Pressure on the quarterback. They had great pressure on the quarterback. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks, which is so fantastic to see. I think overall, the box score said 5. I thought we had 6 sacks as a team, but in the first half, it was just ultimate pressure that really messed with the flow of their offense, of the Washington offense. In the second half, when that pressure wasn't getting home, it still showed a weakness of our team, which is in the secondary. If you have good weapons, which the Commanders do, if you have a good quarterback, you can still slice and dice this defense up a little bit. So that is cause for concern going forward. To be able to score 36, 37 points like we did, but still be worried, 36, it's still be worried that you're not going to win the game. That's not always good. That's not always good. I got one text from Chris, and I wasn't quite caught up to live yet, late coming home from church. And he goes, emotions, thoughts? And I'm like, my thoughts are I'm not live. Stop texting me. And I knew it was happening. Washington was making a comeback. But let's just stop there for a second and talk about the difference in this game and Lions games of the past. We used to have moral victories. I need to talk about this. We used to have moral victories where we would be down big and then we'd be the team charging back, but then we'd make a critical mistake. And we'd always say, same old Lions, see, they found a way to lose. That's because we were behind. I said to people over and over again after last week when they're saying, like, how you feeling? I thought the Lions look good. No, I don't think that. What I think and what I feel is exactly the opposite. Is I want to see a victory where the Lions get out in front, where they lead wire to wire, where they're the team that's forcing the mistakes of the other team. And that's exactly what happened. Washington came storming back, but 1 or 2 mistakes, done. One missed extra point. That seems like a Lions way to lose, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like a Lions thing to do, to lose by getting all the way back and then coming just this short because your kicker can't make an extra point, and then all of a sudden everything's gone? That's why the moral victory thing isn't working for me anymore. We found a way to win. When we had adversity, Amon-Ra St. Brown with a huge 45-yard run, DeAndre Swift falling down, making a catch, cutting it back. You better believe we're going to be looking at some of these plays, right? Cutting it back, making a great play. It is Detroit Lions players making plays when they have to make plays instead of allowing the other team back in the game. That was a full team victory. It needed everyone. On defense, even when Okudah went out, they held breath until they held their breath. They stayed afloat until he got back in. By the way, dude is a difference maker on the defensive end right now. Jeff Okudah has played 2 very, very good games. So we're excited about it. We're going to be talking about this more. Really hope that all of you enjoyed this victory. Soak it in. Have a good week. It is a really good test next week against the Vikings, who I believe are a good team and might even be, dare I say, the favorite to win the North. So a really good test for us going on the road to Minnesota. What's this team going to do? How are they going to respond coming off a victory instead of a loss? I'm excited to see it. Bet that me and Chris will be on here making a bunch of videos this week, not only talking about this past game and what we saw, but also previewing the game with the Vikings. I hope you enjoyed this one, Lions fans. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, because it was really nice to see a Lions victory. When was the last time we had one of these where they got out to a big lead, they held the lead, and they looked like the better team for 3 of the 4 quarters? It was fun to watch. We'll see you on the next one.